Yeah. Okay, so you're all very welcome to an introduction to Learn with Nala. And we did our introduction. So what I'm going to just cover then today, our timetable is I'm going to talk a little bit about Nala for those of you who are unfamiliar with it. I'm going to talk about what is Learn with Nala, our e-learning platform. And then I'll talk about the differences between our learner accounts and tutor accounts. And then I'll be talking about how you would help a learner to create an account and register for courses. We'll talk about how you help learners through courses, giving them guidance on the platform, monitoring their progress. And then if you decide to, you can use Learn with Nala for QQI accreditation. So we'll talk about that. And then at the end, I'll go through some quick tips that I've picked up from tutors about Learn with Nala. So just in a nutshell, what NALA does, we support adults to improve their reading, writing, maths, and digital literacy. And that could be a public organization, a private organization, or like ourselves, an organization in the not-for-profit sector. We support organizations to use and promote a literacy-friendly approach. And in addition to that, we also do policy and research work and advocacy as well. So the next piece is just very briefly, I suppose, the number of adults in Ireland who have unmet literacy needs. I don't know if you've any idea of the percentage of adults in Ireland who have unmet literacy needs. Maybe have a think about what you think that number might be before I go into the next slide. But at the moment, our current statistics are that it's 1 in 6 adults find everyday text, such as a bus timetable or medical instructions. So if you think of the COVID-19 pandemic, they find that hard to read and understand. And given the information that you've all just given me, I think in your context, that figure could be, potentially even more. And then when we look at numeracy, 1 in 4 adults struggle with everyday maths. So that could be working at a discount in a shop, like 50% off, or dividing up a bill in a restaurant between some friends. And then in terms of digital literacy, then, so the kind of entry level digital skills, 4 in 10 adults struggle with that in Ireland. So we have one of the highest numbers of digital unmet digital literacy needs in Europe, which is really interesting when you think of our reputation as a tech hub. And that could be something like looking up a website on a browser or sending an email to someone. So that information is coming from the PIAAC survey in 2012, and lots of you probably know that's currently going on at the moment in Ireland. So we're hoping to have information on that next year. But that was Nala. So in terms of Learn with Nala, then what's that? It's our e-learning platform. So it's free, and it's confidential, and learners can use it at their own pace. So there's not a time limit, and they can do it at home if they want. So you can do a blended approach if you're in a centre. We work at NFQ level 1 to 3. So I saw in Margot's background there, she had the QQI wheel. So I know she fully knows what I'm talking about. But the NFQs or level 3, if anyone doesn't know, I'm sure you do, is roughly the equivalent of a junior cert. And we offer QQI accreditation then for some of our level 2 and 3 courses. Just to mention as well, because I know one person mentioned about working as an SNA, we ask that the learners on Learn with Nala are age 16 and over, because I suppose it's built and designed for adults. The other thing to mention is we have a support helpline that's run by my colleagues Jennifer and Paula, and that's Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. It's available for learners and centre tutors. So we recognise that because of the nature of what we're doing, there is a lot more support needed, and that's something that's available to you. We have, just in terms of the numbers, we have a very big I suppose, group of people using the platform. So we get about 3,000 people registering every year, and we're giving out about 2,000 or more QQI awards every year. So it's becoming quite a big operation, but and it's only within Ireland. So that's where it's at the moment in 2023. Then when we look at account types, then so on the platform, there are two different account types. We have a tutor account and a learner account. So just for the purposes of today, what I'm going to do is when I'm showing you tutor accounts, I'm going to show you Paula's account. And when I'm showing you learner accounts, I'll show you Mike Smith's account. And that is, and I'll put the pictures up on the, or I have the pictures up on the slide so you know who I'm talking about when I'm kind of flip-flopping between the two different account types. So Paula, as a tutor, would use this because she wants to keep track of her class progress. And Mike would use Learn with Nala because he wants to use something for blended learning. So when I talk about centres, then we say, for example, rehab care or maybe some of the ETBs like Tipperary ETB would be registered as a centre with us. And within that centre, then we have tutor accounts and we have learner accounts. So the tutor accounts, most centres have about 4 or 5 tutors, depending on the number of people they have teaching. For example, I know that Tipperary Centre has many, many more because it's quite a big centre. But tutors are automatically enrolled in all of the courses. So if you had a tutor account, you could just go in and test everything out for your learners before you recommend everything. We haven't done that with learners because we reckon it might be a little bit overwhelming if they had access. There's nearly 50 courses. It might be a little bit too much. So they use what we call a learner link to sign up and register for courses. Then say outside of your centre, say your Tipperary ETB, outside of that, we have about 230 other centres in Ireland, and they would all have their own tutor and learner accounts and would be completely separate from you. And then in addition to that, we also have, up in the top right there, we have independent learners. So independent learners would be people who may never set foot in an educational institution. They might not be ready quite yet, and they might sign up on the website by themselves and they learn at home. And generally, they tend to lean a little bit more on our support services to help them get through the courses, or they might be linked with our distance learning support service. But why I'm telling you guys about this is if you're registered to us, if you're working in a centre that's registered, you might find that you have an independent learner coming into your centre. So you might have someone saying, oh yeah, Learn with Nala, I've actually used that already. And in that case, what we generally recommend is just let them finish out what they've done. And what you can do is link them in with your centre once they've finished the course. So what I'm going to do now is I just want to show you what Learn with Nala really looks like if you haven't seen it before. So this is Paula's account. You can see here she has a notification bell, so she clicks on that to get notifications. There are messages. This is where you find your courses. This is a big long list of all of her courses. She's clicking on functional mathematics here. She's in functional mathematics now. And she clicks on this content book icon to get to the lessons. And then if she wants to get back then to her tutor homepage, she just presses the home icon. So lots of people tell me that this looks like Facebook or another social media account. It kind of built looking very like what we're used to with notifications and home pages and things like that. So if you're a tutor then and you're looking to help your learners get started, so if you're not registered with us already, of course, what you'd have to do is get set up with Learn with Nala. But once you're set up, what we do then is we send you out a learner link. And then that lets you get going with your learners. So helping a learner get started, the first step is following the learner link. So what I might do now is I'm just going to follow a real learner link, and what we'll do is I'll just talk you through it in real time. Thanks for letting me know. Sorry about that, guys. I was just showing you the main page. So I was talking about the username, password. I was just going through it. But I was showing you they need an address. And here I was just here on the PPS number. And the main thing, what I mentioned at the start, was just make sure that this section here where it says Learning Center, when you're following your center's learner link, just make sure it says your Learning Center in it. So you can't edit this. So if you're in Tipperary ETB, it'll say Tipperary ETB, and I can't change that here. So every center has their own unique learner link. And in order to hook the learner up at the center, the right one, and get them kind of part of each center, they need to follow the correct learner link. So that's just, yeah, something to mention. Now I'm just going to, I'm a little bit paranoid now. I'm just going to double check. You can see my slideshow now, right? Can
yeah,
so can
all
yes.
fine.
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, I sorry, I see the thumbs up there. Brilliant. Thanks, guys. Okay, so yeah, so the first step then was filling out the account page. And then the second step is signing them up for courses. Because like I mentioned earlier, learners have to sign up for their own courses depending on what they're interested in. So how do you decide? I guess there are different levels. So we have our level 2 and level 3 courses affiliated with QQI. Then our level 1 and preparing for level 3 courses, you get a NALA certificate for completing those. So we're actually in the process of getting our level 1 courses validated, but I don't know if any of you have ever been through the validation process, but it is lengthy and time consuming and difficult. So we're hoping that maybe next year we might have the level 1 courses available for QQI. So our course page, then this is what it looks like. So if you go into to choose a course with your learners, this is what you'll be brought to. And if you scroll down, then you can search the courses. So you can choose which subject you're interested in. You can choose the level that's available. And then you can also choose either major awards or short courses. And just to say to you around the major awards, just for Scandi and Joan, I know in some areas of the country for ESOL learners, they have a kind of a procedure around maybe signing them up for a major award to begin with, to give them accreditation in Ireland if they're new to the country. It's just something to consider. I know GRETB do that just as part of what they do. So yeah, so you can also search for courses. If you know you want to do digital media, you can just pop it in the search bar. And you can see on the right there, these are all the NALA certificate courses. So we're at level 1 at the minute. And then you can see it changes then to QQI awards on the right when we get into level 2. And I'm just scrolling down here to show you the number. I think we're on 48 at the minute, something like that, but there's always new ones being added. And yeah, so they're the courses. And then if you click on register now beside one of the courses, you're going to be brought to this web page. So it'll say, are you an existing user or a new user? So if you've just done the first step there, so follow the learner link, set your learner up with an account, you'll have a username and password for your learner. So you're going to click existing user, log in. And then you're going to enter their username and password information on that, and you're going to click login. And I just pause this here because it might be a little bit small on your screen, but do you see underneath the blue login button, it says forgot your password? That's where you go if they forget their password. So I'm going to enter a learner login here. So this is just my test learner account, and I'm going to add my password. And I'm going to click login. And then it says checkout. So you've been signed up to your course, so I can click start your course there if I want to begin. And what also happens is the learner will get an email with the email address that they signed up with, and they can also click start your course from their email address. I know some learners tend to use the email as a way to remember how to navigate back into the course. So sometimes that's something. And that's it. That's what it means to helping a learner get started. I'll just mention this to you now. If you're new to this, it's totally fine if this is something that you don't remember. But just to say that Learn with Nala is technically two websites. So for those of you who are kind of more familiar with it, you might have noticed this already. So learnwithnala.ie is where you go to sign up to courses. So where learners would go to register for new courses. It's kind of like the shop. Like, did you see on that screen before it said checkout when I registered for my course? But when the learners are actually doing their courses, they're on learn.nala.ie, which is where all the lessons are. They're going to spend 95% of their time on this website. And I wouldn't really be explaining this to learners unless you thought it would make sense to them. But for most learners, this is it's kind of a step too far. But for you as people who are teaching, it might be helpful just to know this. And some tutors tend to bookmark both of these pages so that they know where to go. So they might call learnwithnala.ie, signing up to new courses or something like that, just so that they remember. And then we're into finding your courses. So I showed you very briefly a few minutes ago that this, we call it the waffle icon, and that's just what the owner of their website calls it. But it's these 9 dots or 9 squares that kind of look like a waffle. So if you click that, you get a big long list of all the courses that you've registered for. And then in addition to that, then your courses will also be available on your home screen, just beneath your center's banner on the home screen. So what I'll do, actually, you know what, I'm going to show you, what I'll do is I'll show you in real life what this actually looks like, just because I'll show you just logging into it and just show you where to find the courses. So I'm hoping you can all see my screen now, or pipe up if you can't. So I've just logged in under Mike's learner account. So I just want to show you what it looks like from a learner perspective. And here you go, it's just loading for him. So this banner where it says NALA here, depending on your organization, it'll say your organization. So it might say Rehab Care or Cork ETP or something like that. So Mike can get to his course through this waffle icon here. You can click on it. And if, say, he's doing writing level 2, and that's something he's doing all the time, you can encourage him to click this little pin icon beside that, and then when he goes into it again, it's always going to be up the top for him. So that's just a quick way of finding it. And then the other way he can find his courses, like I mentioned, is they're just beneath the banner here. So he can click into all of his different courses through this. So he has lots of them here, where he can click all courses. And I've clicked pinned here. So writing level 2 is a pinned course, and I'm going to navigate into that. And then if he wants to go into the actual lessons themselves, then he clicks content up the top. That's something that I found a little confusing when I first started. And then he can just click continue on wherever he was last, or he can click launch unit on the first one. So that is finding courses. Yeah. So then as center tutors, then one of the main advantages of having a tutor account is that you can keep an eye on your class progress. And you do this through either clicking class progress on the navigation bar, or you can click course admin and go into grades. So I'll show you this now. And this is how you keep track of how all the learners are getting on if you're teaching a class. So the main thing to remember about this is, if you want to know about a course, you need to navigate into that course. So you need to find, if you want to know about Maths Level 3, you need to go into it. I've clicked Course Admin there up in the top navigation bar. And I am going to click into Class Progress first. And I click the learner's name to know about how they're getting on. And you can see here it says Progress Sign. So I'm going to click on that, and I can see how they're all getting on, or how they've got on in all the different questions. And then the other way I can do that is to go into grades. So I go back into course admin, click grades, and this is a very visual way of finding out all this information. So I can go in and I can see in red and green whether they've passed or not. I clicked export there. And this is a way for me to just export all the grades into an Excel spreadsheet. Some people love this feature, some people don't. I'm clicking export to Excel here. Generally, people who have reporting requirements or have to tell people about assessments or things like that tend to like this. And then you can click download on it when you've finished the export. And you can see there then all of my learners and the different grades that I wanted. So that could be a feature for some of you to use. In terms of QQI then, I didn't get a strong sense that there were many people that were very keen on QQI, but I'll just mention it anyway. In terms of QQI, of course, that we have a lot of information about the course descriptors in our tutor guide, so you'll be aware what the learning objectives are, how many questions are in the end test, the portfolio requirements, things like that are available in the tutor guide, but they're also available, as you probably all know, on the Q search. On Learn with NALA, then there are two things that need to be done to make the learner eligible for a QQI award. So they need to have done the end test for the course, and they need to have done the portfolio work. And if they've done both of those things, what happens with us is twice a year, it's almost like our system does a scan, and it'll just say, yeah, Joe Bloggs has done end test and portfolio work on writing level 2, automatically put them forward for QQI. So it doesn't you don't need to do anything. You don't need to ring us and tell us, or anything. Just make sure that both of these things are done for your learner. And the way is going into their progress and checking that, yeah, the portfolio has been uploaded, and yes, there's a pass beside every end test question. And that's how you know that they're going to be ready for the submission dates. So yeah, we also just ask that you check portfolio work before the submission, just to give the learner the best chance possible. We really don't like when we have to let learners know that they haven't passed and they have to wait another 6 months to go again. And sometimes it's stuff that could be avoided, like really small things. Like one of the tasks is send us in 5 sentences that you've written. And sometimes we get posts and it'll say we'll realize there are only 4 sentences, and that's just really difficult for the learners and for us to have to come back and say that to them. And so just check it and give them the best shot before it's sent. The other thing to mention is the portfolio is open as soon as the learner registers for the course, and they can be tipping away at it as you cover relevant stuff. So they don't have to wait until they finished everything to do it. Usually it's an online portfolio, depending on what it is, but learners can upload samples of their work to it. So you don't need to be going around with a folder or anything like that. And then some learners prefer to free post us in the material as well. That's fine. But just have a look at the portfolio for the courses you're registered, because they're all, as you know, they're all really different. Like career prep is a mock interview that they have to schedule with us. So I know that the deadline for that is, I think, about a week early, just to give time to book in for it. So yeah, if you decide to use the QQI piece, just check out the portfolio before you do it. So I'm going to go into just our what do I already know section just quite briefly as well. We have something on Learn with NALA called What Do I Already Know, and that's an initial assessment or recognition of prior learning. So the idea behind that is that every module at level 2 and level 3 has this initial assessment called What Do I Already Know in it. And the learners can do a test of their knowledge before they start the course. And if they show us that they already know some of the content, they can fast track themselves through the course. So one way that they can do it is that they do what we already know, and they get everything right, and then the end test will just flash up for them because they've already shown us they know it all. And the other thing that can happen is that they do what we already know, and they actually don't get any of it right this time around. So they just do the full course. And we know that some of our learners just prefer to do the full course anyway. Some people don't even go near what we already know, they just do the whole thing anyway. And that's fine. You can use it like that. And if you're doing it in a group setting, up on a whiteboard or something, then that's how you would be using it. Um, oh, sorry. The third option then is that some tasks are answered incorrectly in what we already know. So say they get task 1, 2, and 3 right, but they get task 4 and task 7 wrong. In that case, then they check their progress, and they just need to do lesson 4 and lesson 7 of the module, and then the end test will pop up for them. So they only need to do the lessons that correspond to the incorrectly answered tasks. So I'll just show you a quick video here of the what we already know section. So this is me now finishing what we already know from the self-advocacy module. So this is what it looks like. It'll say conclusion. I'll say I'm done. And then what I need to do is go check my progress to check. So the end test isn't there. So I definitely got some tasks incorrect. So I'm going to go check my progress. I have grades received, the drop down. I see there on the right, it says pass, pass, pass. But look, task 2 and task 1, it says go to lesson. So I know I got task 1 and task 2 wrong. So I need to do lesson 1 and lesson 2. And then the end test should pop up for me because I got everything else right. So I'm going to try that now. Oh, what I might do is I'm just getting a little bit of interference from you there, Scandi, so I'm just going to pop you on mute, but let us know if you have any questions. So then I'm not going to make you watch me do all of lesson 1 and lesson 2, but this is me. You can see here number 16, end of lesson 2. And it's just worth pointing out as well, those little speaker icons at the start of every sentence or every paragraph there, that will read the audio out loud for your learners. So that can be great if you're getting people who are learning English, and because they get that audio component as well. But it can also be great for people with literacy difficulties. And if you're in a class setting, you can ask people to just pop on their headphones, because there are videos as part of the courses, and nobody needs to know if one person needs something read out to them. It can be private. So yeah, so this is the end of lesson 2. So I've just done lesson 1 and lesson 2. So let's see now, does the end test pop up for me? Because if my predictions are right with my what we already know, it should be fine. So lesson 1 and lesson 2 are done. And here's the end test for me now. So I don't need to do the rest of that because I've fast-tracked myself through it with the what I already know section. So hopefully that makes sense. If this is a little bit difficult, I wouldn't be worried. If this is new to you, I think this is one of those things you probably need to mess around with a little bit before you fully get. So don't worry if it's kind of not making a huge amount of sense right now. It does become a lot more clear once you have people going through it. So just to recap with the end test, it only comes up if you either answer everything correctly in the what we already know initial assessment, or you can just do all the lessons, or if you complete the lessons based on the incorrect tasks, like what I just did there. So one of the main things that I'd really recommend is that you help the learners to go into My Progress and find their grades on it. So that grades received 8 button there. If they click that on the drop down, it'll come up with how they're getting on. And that can be really helpful for learners because they'll know whether they need to repeat anything in the end test. And it kind of gives them a sense of independence around managing the whole thing themselves. But you can view their progress through your own account as well if you need to do that. So, just in terms of some tips, then, when learners are doing the what we already know, they need to click check answers to submit the score, and this can catch some people out. The other thing is around the naming. So, there are three separate sections to most lessons, and I'm saying most because the level twos and threes have what we already know. So, the three sections are what do we already know? And in that, we call everything task. So everything is called task one, task two, task three. You can see there on the right. And then the next section, the second section, are lessons. So lesson one, lesson two, lesson three, that has all the content in it. And then the final part of each lesson that you'll see is the end test. And that has question one, question two, question three. So when you're looking at the grades, you will know where they are, because it'll say task three, go to lesson. And if it says that, you know that's the what we already know section. They didn't get the third question right, so they need to go to lesson three. But say if it says question three, you'll know that that meant the end test. Again, I think this will make more sense when you're going in and out of it, but it's just to mention that we use that. The other thing that tutors sometimes tell me is that sometimes learners find it a bit confusing, because once they've done a section of the lessons, a tick comes up beside it on the course homepage. And for us, that just means it's done. So some tutors will tell their learners, follow the ticks and start with your, in the next class, start at where the last tick was. So you can just hop straight back into it. If they get a tick beside a lesson, it doesn't mean that it's right. It just means it's done. So the other thing, just so you know about, are the resources. So there's a tutor guide. If you click help, there's a manual about all of this available. And I've just updated the new one, so I should be uploading that pretty soon. But there's a full, I think it's 62-page document about everything you ever needed to know about all of this. And sometimes when you're getting started in a new center, it might be helpful for, say, you, Joan, to print this and have it just beside you when you're getting used to it. And the other thing to mention is it just needs to be an up-to-date version of your internet browser. So say if it just it'll prompt you, it'll say if you're using Google, it'll say you need to use the new version of Google. Do you want to download this? So just so you know, that might take a few minutes and you might need to do it. We have a lot of learner resources available both on Learn with Nala and on YouTube. So we have a playlist about getting started with Learn with Nala, and it has some really helpful information in it. So how do I sign up for Learn with Nala in a center? It has a guide about how a learner can do that. We also have videos for learners available in their help section. So if they click help on the nav bar, these are the different videos that'll come up. So how do I register for a course? What do I already know? How do I check my results? That kind of thing. So that can be really, really helpful to support them with their own digital literacy skills and support them with their own independence around using websites. So then in terms of troubleshooting, on a day-to-day basis, if you guys need any extra help with this, or you find you're having problems with navigating the website, you can call our free phone number. So Jennifer and Paula will give you a hand with this. Jennifer has been doing this for about 14 years. So we had a version of Learn with Nala before this called Write On. So she's incredibly experienced by guiding people over the phone, and she's very, very good at it. You can email her as well on learn@nala.ie. She does get, like I mentioned, we have 3,000 new learners a year, so she gets a lot of phone calls, particularly from learners. So if she doesn't get back to you straight away, she will when she gets a chance. If you think your center needs training, so if you have a good few tutors and you just think it'd be better if we did a practical workshop, you can contact me. That's my email address there. And I much rather that new tutors come to training than try to do it by themselves, because like I gave you an abridged version there, but it can be a little bit difficult to up and running. And the other thing is just around our resources. So just on the next slide here, I'll just show you, we have a huge number of resources that can kind of supplement and add to Learn with Nala. I'm told we have over 1,000 resources, but I haven't checked that out. But we do things like a new worksheet every single month. That's a PDF on our website. We have a lot of workbooks that might be helpful for you as tutors, and maybe the way some learners like to have a physical copy of things as well. So if you want to look at the resources, you can go to nala.ie/tutors, and if you decide, oh, actually I've tried this, I've tried the PDF and it works for me, or I've printed and it works for me, you can order the resources from us at that last link on this slide. So nala.ie/order resources. You don't have to be an ALO to order resources, or a manager of a center. You can just say, listen, I need 10 digital matters because I'm running a computer course and it's very helpful for my learners, and that's no problem. We will post them out to you. So finally, then, we're nearly there now, but just to mention as well, with your accounts, you also get access to our professional development courses. So these are for people who are teaching. So we have things like preparing learning materials, or an introduction to integrating literacy into your work. So a lot of these are practical examples of people who are trying to do this already, and can just be very helpful to you in your own professional development. So they're available and free if you'd like to use those too. And you can click that link there to get to them on NALA Tutor Training. And this is just to remind me to ask for feedback, because I often forget. So I'm going to pop this link into the chat in a few minutes, or if you want, you can scan the QR code here on the slide with your phone, if that works for you. But it's just really helpful for me because I'm always trying to make these more relevant to different people. So any kind of feedback that you have would be fantastic. And that's it. So I've left some time for some questions. And what I'm going to do is I'll stop recording, and we can just go straight to